In today's video, I'm going to be discussing $2,000 ongoing monthly checks, specifically focused on the low income, and yes, of course, this would include fixed income beneficiaries of Social Security, retirement, disability, SSDI, survivors, spousal, SSI, VA, and RRB. I have all the details of this new announcement and the report right here in the video. Let's get into it and discuss what's going on. First off, thank you so much for liking and sharing this video with those buttons right down below. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for your support and for watching this video as well as the other videos right here on the channel. Also, if you have not done so yet, as long as you're right down below, make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. Totally free to do so. Always has been and always will be. I'm here for you every single day. It's a super busy time and a weird time right now. I think we can all probably agree with that. So again, thanks so much for being here. Let's get into it and talk about the details of this new announcement and report that I do want to bring to your attention because, in my opinion, this is actually really good. And they are suggesting $2,000 ongoing monthly checks specifically focused on the low income, and yes, of course, this would include fixed income beneficiaries as well. But again, I will specify and clarify that here in just a second. But again, great report, great study here. I'm going to break down all the details for you. Okay, so there's a couple different acronyms, in other words, abbreviations, that I want to bring to your attention here in this video because this actually paints a very good picture. Now, again, they spent a lot of time, and I've seen this report a little bit over the last couple years here, pop up a couple times, but this is a new iteration of this and some other detailed information. And again, I find this to be a very good study, a very good report, and I actually agree with exactly what they're saying here. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say this really quickly, and this may not be a popular thing to say, but that's okay. I'm going to say it anyway, because here's the thing. As I've always said before, I'm going to bring you honest, accurate, reliable, and transparent information, and I'm going to give it to you straight every single time. The stimulus checks that we got years ago, okay, so back in 2020, we got 2. In 2021, we got 1, right? So a total of 3 stimulus checks we got in about a 12-month period of time. Those checks went out to about 85% of the population. I think, in my opinion, bad move. That should not have been done, okay? They should only have been focused on the low income. They should not have sent out checks to 85% of the population. Why? That was a bad move on their part, okay? That's just my opinion about that. But what we're talking about right here in this video and with this report that was just released here, this is spot on. This is exactly how they should approach this because this is a much better approach to the whole situation, okay? Let me explain, okay? Now, here's the abbreviation I want to share with you really quickly. It is MPC. Sounds odd, okay? What does that stand for? Stands for Marginal Propensity to Consume. I know, it seems very confusing, but I will explain it here in just a second and exactly how this pertains to the $2,000, okay? Now, here's what they found. They categorized people, as in consumers, you and me and every other person walking around the streets out there across the entire country, okay? There's about 334 million people in the United States right now. That's the population, obviously, give or take a little bit, right? But anyway, so they looked at people. They categorized people in 3 different categories, okay? So category 1 is low MPC, middle or medium MPC, and the third category is high MPC, okay? Now, it's kind of like this inverse correlation. Somebody that has a low income generally has a high MPC. Somebody that has a middle income, middle class type of person, typically has a middle or medium MPC. Imagine that, right? Funny. Okay. Now next, somebody that has a high income, identified as high income, generally has a low MPC. Okay, again, sounds very interesting, but let me explain the situation here, okay? So here's what they found, and again, very good study here. So here's what they found. They found that if they give $2,000 to everybody across the board, they find that people that have a high MPC, a high marginal propensity to consume, as in low-income people, spend generally 80% or more of that income, or of that $2,000, they spend 80% of it or more within 10 days, and then the remaining portion of that money is generally spent within the next 30 days. In other words, high MPC, they spend the money quickly, and they spend basically all the money. These are generally low-income people who take the bulk of the $2,000 and they spend all of it quickly. That's exactly what we want, okay? Now, let me explain more categories here, and then I'll get into the details of why this is a very good approach. And in my opinion, when they do some type of stimulus check again, at some point they will, okay? I know a lot of people out there are like, oh, they're never going to do stimulus checks again. they've been doing stimulus checks for decades. They're going to do them again at some point, okay? I don't know when. I don't know. I'm just simply saying they will again because this is the play that they do all the time when the economy goes down. But that's a whole other topic in and of itself. We can talk about that in a separate video. All right, so let's talk about medium or middle MPC people. These people are kind of middle of the road income people. They're not high income. They're not low income people. But here's what they found with them. They, when given $2,000, they don't really typically spend the money all that fast. And if they do, they spend about half of it. Gee, imagine that, about the middle of the road stuff. And then they save or squander away the other half or do whatever they want with it. And it's not really a positive effect, and it's not really a negative effect either. It's just kind of right in the middle. It's not really good. It's not bad. It just is what it is, okay? So not really what we're looking for. But then they found if they give somebody with a low MPC, in other words, a high income person, $2,000, they found the inverse. They actually found that these people spend the money very slowly, if at all, and if they spend any of it, they spend a small portion of it, and it takes them a long period of time to do so. Sorry, wrong answer, high-income people. You're out of here. You're not what we're looking for, okay? So my point is, okay, remember this much as well. Maybe you've heard me say this in other videos, or maybe this is your first time watching a video here on the channel. I'm going to say this really quickly. What is the purpose of stimulus checks? Anytime that they send out stimulus checks, what is the purpose? Is it to help us because they care? No, sorry, false, wrong answer. That is not the answer, okay? Here's why they send out stimulus checks. To do exactly what the name implies. Stimulate. That's exactly what they do. That's why I said a minute ago. They will send out stimulus checks again. When? I don't know. Okay, if I knew, I'd be telling you, but I don't know yet. But my point is, every time the economy contracts, every time the economy goes into a recession, every time the economy is going down, they print up hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars worth of stimulus checks and they push them out to the people, as in you and me and everybody else out there. And they instruct us to spend the money. Spend the money. Go buy yourself some stuff, right? Why? Because it's stimulative. They stimulate the economy that way. They use us as a proxy to get a lot of money into the economy very, very quickly. That's the purpose of stimulus checks. It's not to help us. It's not to help us get a new pair of shoes. It's not to help us get a new purse. That's not the purpose of it. But it is to stimulate the economy. That's why they don't care about us individually. They want to stimulate the economy. That's the whole purpose of stimulus checks. That's why they're called stimulus checks or EIP, economic impact payments. That's literally why they do it, okay? All right, so anyway, the whole purpose of stimulus checks is to be spent, not to be saved, not to be hoarded, not to be stuck under your mattress, nothing like that. It is to be spent. That is the whole purpose of stimulus checks, okay? Now, with that in mind, okay, remember these acronyms and these different categories I just gave you, right? Low MPC, medium MPC, high MPC. Here's what they found. The highest return on money, okay? Remember this much as well. If they print up, say, $850 billion worth of stimulus checks, like they did a couple of years ago, and they push it out to the people, they want all of that money spent relatively quickly. They want it spent. They don't want it saved. They don't want that. They want it spent. They want it in the economy, okay? So here's what they found. With this study right here, if they were to send out $2,000 ongoing on a monthly basis for a few months, okay? A few months being 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months in some instances. If they were to send out $2,000 to highly focused, low-income people, high MPC, okay? Very big difference there. Not high-income people, not middle-income people, low-income people with a high MPC. In other words, spend money quickly. If they were to send out $2,000 ongoing monthly checks to these individuals, they know the vast majority of that money would be spent very quickly, within 10 days, 80% of it, which by the way, 80% of $2,000 is $1,600. They know that $1,600 would be spent within the first 10 days of every $2,000 payment that would go out. That's good. That's what they want. The remaining $400, the remaining 20% of that money would be spent within the next 30 days. Good. It's exactly what they want, okay? So it's exactly what they're finding from this report here is that high MPC people are literally the best approach going forward when it comes down to stimulating the economy, okay? So like they did a couple years ago, sending out $850+ billion to 85% of the population sounds cool, gives you, good brownie points, but it is not the strategy. It is not what they want to do. They want to stimulate the economy quickly. So here's the whole point behind this. In the event of a major economic recession, a major economic contraction, the best approach going forward next time is to establish $2,000 ongoing monthly checks specifically focused on the low income. and send those out for a few months, and this will give us the best bang for our dollar, getting that money into the economy very, very quickly across the entire economy, not just on other things, right? So this is the best approach, is what they continue to find with this, okay? So in other words, this much, sending out ongoing monthly checks or even any checks to high-income people is not the approach. It does not do anything. If anything, these people save the money and then deploy that cash at some point in the future, and that's not good either, because that just prolongs the situation and potentially leads to higher inflation. In this case, they could send out money to a very, very small specified group of the population, of anywhere between maybe 50 million to maybe 100 million people at most, right? It'd be a very small fraction of the people that got the checks last time. It'd be a percentage of the people that we got that received checks over those those 3 stimulus checks we got a couple of years ago. It'd be a very small percentage of those people, but yet it's highly focused on the low income that we know from this study have a high MPC, who would go out and spend the money quickly and do exactly what they want, stimulate the economy. Does that kind of make sense? So that's exactly what we're looking for here, and why this study is so incredibly powerful. And again, I agree with this. We don't need to send out stimulus checks nearly in the amount of $1 trillion to 85% of the population. If you do that, you see exactly what happens. Massive inflation for years and years and years. Supply chain issues, driving up prices on everything, right? That's not what we want. The whole purpose of sending out stimulus is not necessarily to inflate, but rather to stimulate and reinflate the bubble as in the economy bubble, and then that's it, right? That's the whole purpose of what the stimulus checks are for. So anyway, I agree with this. I like this study. I think this is a great approach going forward. They could send out significantly less overall money to, across the entire country, but yet individually, it's a lot more money for the people that actually need the money, and will actually spend the money on things that they actually need going forward. Does that kind of make sense? Right? The low income, the fixed income, everybody like this, $2,000 a month ongoing is what they find is the best approach going forward on this, and that money just goes out in the economy very, very quickly, rather than being saved and hoarded and not really used for the approach that it needed. And then, by the way, if they were to do something like this, it would cost what, a few $100 billion versus nearly $1 trillion. Again, everybody wins by this, right? So anyway, the low income, the fixed income would get money ongoing monthly because of something like this, because they would be the ones that would be focused on this. And then again, it would not lead to massive inflation, and we wouldn't need to print nearly $1 trillion to send out in the form of stimulus checks, so that everybody can go out and buy a bunch of stuff that they don't need and drive tons of inflation going forward. Make sense? So anyway, great study here. Just want to bring this to your attention, but I'm going to continue watching something like this. Again, I want to reiterate really quick. I think I kind of alluded to this so far, but I'm going to make it very, very clear right now. No, this is not going to be a thing, as in it's not like a $2,000 check has not been approved right now, okay? I want to make that very clear. But in the event that the economy goes into a major contraction, a major economic recession, something like that, when that happens, and again, it'll happen again, don't worry, it will happen again for sure. When that happens and it gets really bad, hopefully they look at studies like this and they implement something like this versus just a one-off stimulus check for everybody. Oh, that'll be great. No, it won't. That'll be a terrible approach. We're going to have the same situation that we dealt with the last couple of years here, massive inflation. So hopefully they look at reports like this and say, okay, we're going to ditch the idea of broad stimulus checks to everybody, and we're just going to highly focus some money on the low income and fixed income, because we know that'll give us the best bang for our dollar, giving us, what we need, stimulating the economy and helping out the people that actually need it versus everybody that probably don't need the money in the first place. Make sense? So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope this helps you. But again, please, as always, like the video down below, share the video down below, subscribe to the channel down below, leave your comments, questions, feedback down below. A lot of stuff down below, right? Otherwise, check out the other videos here on the channel, the thousands in the video library, the ones I've hand selected for you down below in the description or top of the comment section as well. And right now, pop on over your screen as well. You'll see some videos there. Please take your selection now. I'll see you again in just a few hours in the next video. And again, thanks so much for joining me. I'll catch you.